There's a unique combination of 20 amino acids that give rise to the proteins in our body. This is the chief building block of all your physical structures. So this is why it's really important that you get either meat in your diet or eggs or milk, but also things like beans. For people that are vegetarians or vegans, they might get their proteins from beans. Everything has some protein in it if it's a natural structure, but getting your proteins from meat is usually the best way to be able to get the proteins that you need. And so eating a varied diet, eating a lot of different things is going to allow your body to have all those amino acids, and think of it like a buffet. Your body can pick out the things that it needs and put it all together and make you into you. And so these proteins, they do everything from assisting chemical reactions to causing blood clotting to building bones to fighting more microorganisms. So if you are deficient in any of those areas, you would start to have some physical ailments, or you would start to get sick because you need your body to be able to do all of those things. So as I was just saying, proteins are an essential dietary component. If you think about the functions of our body, the things that our body has to be able to do in order to survive, we have to be able to grow, we have to be able to repair things that get broken, and we have to be able to replace the things that we are without. And so if any point in time your body isn't able to do those things, you're going to either end up sick or you could end up dead. And these complete proteins are things like milk, eggs, fish, chicken, and beef. They have all of the essential amino acids in them. So your body requires the amino acids in order to be able to grow and repair and replace itself. And if it doesn't get those and you have an incomplete diet, or you have incomplete proteins, so that some of the proteins coming from vegetables, fruits, and grains, that's why you can't live without protein. You can't live without the milk, eggs, fish, chicken, or the getting your proteins from legumes or beans. And so if you don't get them from meat, then you can get them by combining together these different vegetables and fruits and grains to put together all of the building blocks of what you need in order to survive. If you think about the different food staples from around the world, the things that people eat, if they're not milk, eggs, and fish and chicken, then they are incomplete proteins that they're putting together in order to allow them to survive. I lived down on the Mexican border for a long time, and they would eat a lot of beans and tortillas, and those beans are part of getting those complete proteins. If you think about in the Asian countries where they eat a lot of fish and they eat a lot of rice, they're combining things that allow them to be able to survive as this population that they are. And if at any point in time they were not eating a complete diet, they wouldn't be able to survive. And so that can be part of what causes species to go extinct, is not having the right amino acids to build the proteins to build your body and have your body function. So here we have some examples of complete versus incomplete proteins. I realize that that may be a little bit small for you to be able to see it. If you're going to come in, there's a door in the back after we started, okay? The essential amino acid contents of common foods. So if you look through this list, you see lots of those enes that make them obvious as amino acids. So apples, almonds, white rice, lentils, milk, tofu, chicken, beef. If you look up and down the table there, you can see that something like apples it looks like 4 of the amino acids that are essential for you being able to survive. And then we have almonds, which are more complete. We have white rice, more complete than almonds. Lentils, which are still missing 1 or 2 sets of amino acids. But things like milk, tofu, chicken, and beef, those things have all of the essential amino acids, so they would be considered complete proteins. And things like apples, almonds, white rice, lentils, those would be incomplete proteins. So you'd have to weigh out those meals in order to have a wide range of things and be able to get all the amino acids that you need. Yes?
I was just wondering why two of the amino acids listed there, one plus another like.
You know what? I actually don't know. Maybe there's something that are chemically combined and they have to come one with one another. That would be definitely a great Google question. I actually don't know the answer to that. So if I don't Google it, then maybe if somebody can let me know what the answer to that is, we'll see at some point. Okay, so one thing to realize about proteins, I think that when we think of proteins, we think of beef and chicken, and we think of them as being this solid thing. But if you get down to the microscopic level and look at what a protein's function is, it is influenced by its three-dimensional shape. So starting off with its primary structure, proteins are these built up of amino acids that are bonded together in what's called a peptide bond. So they're called a polypeptide chains, the sequence of letters that basically spell out the word of the amino acid. And so then if we look at the secondary structure, so the thing that's building up the proteins, you can see these corkscrew-like twists or these pleated folds that are formed by hydrogen bonds, which are connecting these amino acids together. So it's got, down at the very smallest level, we've got amino acids in a row making up the specific protein. Then we have the proteins that are bonded together making a polypeptide, multiple peptide chain. Then we have the tertiary structure, which is this three-dimensional shape that is formed by multiple twists and bends in the polypeptide chain. So you're going to see this definite three-dimensional twisting shape. And then finally, and I can never say this, the quaternary structure is when you have two or more of these polypeptide chains bonded together. So these are the things that are going to make up our hormones. These are the things that make up the different structures inside of our bodies. And they have this three-dimensional shape, and the way they are shaped is very important to their function. The way that they're formed together is going to affect what they are able to do within the living thing. So here we see an example of a normal protein. When we're working with proteins, we have some things that we need to keep in mind about proteins that are going to cause them to break apart. So whenever you have that breaking apart, it's called denaturing, that word that's right up there at the top, denaturing. So it basically takes them from this three-dimensional structure, the corkscrew or the pleats and the folds, and basically makes them, irons them out or makes them lose all of that shape. That can happen because of heat, can happen because of pH, and it makes it so that it no longer forms what it's supposed to form, or it no longer does what it's supposed to do. So one of the best examples of this that we have come up with is egg whites. So egg whites have a ton of protein in them. But if you take and heat up an egg white, it becomes a scrambled egg. The protein becomes denatured, and that scrambling, that turning white or yellow if you include the yolk, is going to be denatured proteins. If you beat them with a whisk, they can eventually get those white peaks that people know when they cook. Sometimes you need the fluffy white peaks of eggs. Also, if you put some chemicals on them, like if you were to put baking soda onto eggs, it would cause them to turn white as they are basically denaturing. So they contain lots of proteins until we start messing with them and basically take them apart. And if you remember back to the first day of school talking about what it is that makes us human, being able to denature these proteins through the cooking process, when they become denatured, they're easier for our bodies to use as fuel for our bodies. And so that's part of what makes us human, is that we get lots of energy from the things that we eat because we cook them.